Torah portion, Beshalach. We are in the third reading. We're continuing with our story. Well, the Jews are out of Egypt, but the Egyptians are down their back. And this is it. Today, we begin the journey of the beginning of the crossing of the sea. Okay, so we are chapter 14, verse number 15. Get Liba in. Okay. Vayomer Hashem, and Hashem said, Moshe to Moshe, Ma titzak alai, what are you crying out to me? Right? Rashi will explain what was he doing crying out. Which, by the way, yesterday also when the Jews cried out, Rashi explained over there about prayer. So what are you crying out? The Daber b'nei Israel, speak to the children of Israel. But you so let them journey, go forward march. Rashi in 15, why are you crying out to me? This verse teaches that Moshe was standing and he was praying. And God said to him, this is not a time to prolong in prayer. That the Israelites are in distress. In other words, you got to take immediate action. That's first explanation. Got it? Now he gives an alternative explanation. Why are you crying out to me? Implying, in other words, right? In other words, saying that the responsibility of this matter depends upon me, not upon you. A lie. In other words, and before we're saying a lie meant to me. Second explanation is saying because a lie, to me, matitzak means why are you crying out? Well, you have to say to who? Obviously, crying out to God, right? Which we had previously and yesterday when the Jewish people, Yitzaku b'nei Israel, right? We had yesterday. There it says El Hashem, a lie. But what's the a lie over here? So he's saying in the second explanation that a lie means upon me, it's dependent. And not upon you. As it says further on, it says, would you instruct me with regard to my children and about the works of my hands? Okay. So speak to the Israelites, the children of Israel, and let them journey. They have nothing to do but travel, to move, to journey. Because the sea does not stand as a barrier before them. In the merit of their forefathers and of themselves, their merit, and the faith that they had in me when they went out of Egypt, it's sufficient that the sea should split. Now, what are you crying out to me? This explanation is saying, speak to the children of Israel. Now, this is not a rebuke, but it's an instruction to the children of Israel They don't need anything else for the miracle to happen. They have the merit of the forefathers and their own merit. If I just speak to them. Interesting. Okay, the ata, and as for you, harem, lift up, take up, is matcha, is your staff, unete is yadcha, raise your arm, al hayam over the sea, uvakehu, and it was and split it. And the Israelites will come in the sea, on dry land. Ani, and as for me, Hineni, behold, I am mechazik slave Mitzrayim. I will strengthen the heart of the Egyptians. So here it's not just Pharaoh, by the way, the Egyptians, right? And they will come after them. Bikabda bepare, and I will be glorified. Kavod means honor, right? So I'll be glorified through Pharaoh, and all of his army, with their chariots, and their horsemen. V'yadu Mitzrayim, and the Egyptians will know. This is, finally they're going to know. Kani Hashem, that I am Hashem, Bikavdi, Pharaoh, with my being glorified through Pharaoh, Berichbai, with his chariot, of Harashav, and his horsemen. V'yisa malach Elokim, and the V'yisa means traveled. Or here he explains advanced. Okay, malach Elokim, the angel of Hashem, Israel, that was going before the encampment of the Israelites, and also going behind them, in front and in behind. And it traveled the pillar of clouds, from before them, and stood at their rear. Interesting, stood at their Rashi. In 19, and went behind them. The angel took this position, in order to separate between the encampment of the Egyptians and that of the Israelites. Well, the Kabul chitzim, and meaning that to intercept arrows, or ballisteros, shamitzrayim, and the catapults of stones from the Egyptians. Right, so it's there to protect. Wherever it says that there's an angel of God, right, using the divine name that connotes the attribute of mercy, because Hashem, right, is a divine name of compassion, but here it's Elohim, right? But here it's the angel of Elohim. And as we know, Elohim connotes the attribute of judgment. Melamed, so this teaches us that because of using this phrase Elohim and not Hashem, that the Israelites were placed in a judgment at that time, if they should be saved, or to be destroyed with the Egyptians. A complete contradiction to what we just said in the previous Rashi. My gosh, what's going on over here? Come on, anybody awake here? Anybody awake? Did you read what Rashi just said? Right, Rashi said, speak to the children of Israel that they should journey. Their forefathers' merit, their own merit, the faith that they had to go out of Egypt, that was sufficient for the sea to be split. And now they're in judgment. Maybe they should be drowned. Oh, gosh. I don't have an answer. You're not going to go to sleep tonight, Leslie. Huh? I don't, I have to look it up. I have to look it up. I don't, offhand, I don't know the answer. Okay. And the pillar of cloud traveled. So what does it mean that the pillar of the cloud traveled? When it became dark, and the pillar of cloud handed over the camp of the Israelites and left to the pillar of fire. So he's saying that's what it means, traveled. So the cloud did not leave, and it would normally leave at night completely. But it traveled and went behind the Israelites to cast darkness over the Egyptians. I was wondering why the verse didn't say the pillar of fire, right? It doesn't say the pillar of fire, right? Why? Because it's speaking about what the pillar of a cloud did to make this separation. So the pillar of cloud of fire came in front for the Jews to give them light before them, right? But that pillar of cloud went in back in order to make it dark for the Egyptians. And also, I don't know why he doesn't say it here again. I mean, he did say it in order to make to receive all of the arrows and the stones that were being catapulted by the Egyptians, right? So it was also accepting that. But here the chiddush, the novelty is to make dark for them. Okay, interesting. All right. Yovai, and it came between the encampment of the Egyptians, Israel, and the encampment of the Israelites. Here Anan, and it was at the Anan, the cloud, and the darkness, right, between them. And it was illuminated the entire night, the night actually. Not one camp came close to the other camp, the entire night. Rashi. So this pillar cloud came between the camp of the Egyptians. This situation could be compared to someone who's going on the road and his son is walking before the father, right? So bandits came to take the son captive. So the father took his son and who was in front of him and placed him behind him, right, to protect him. So wolf came from behind the father. So he put the son in front of him. Now he had bandits in front of him and wolves behind him. So what did he do? So the father put his son on his arms and he fought against both in front, the bandits and the wolves from behind. Similarly, this is what I led Ephraim along. He took them on his arms. Similar idea that we have later on in Nach. And there was a cloud and darkness, and we trying for the Egyptians. And the night lit up. As Lila, a pillar of fire lit up the night, Israel for the Yidden, for the Jews. And it went ahead of them. That it would normally go ahead for them all night. And the darkness and the fog from the cloud was towards the side of the Egyptians. And they did not approach one and the other, one camp to the other camp. 21. Moshe stretched out, rather raised his hand, Alayam over the sea. Hashem, and Hashem made go. It's a yam. He made the sea go beruach kadim with an easterly wind, Oza, powerful. You know what Oza is? Gaza, right? Gaza. In Hebrew is also, right? Powerful. Kol alayla, the entire night. Yosim is a yam, the charava, and he placed as a result of that the sea into dry land. About the boku hamayim, and the water split. Rashi in 21. Ruach kadim also with a strong easterly wind. Ruach kadim shu was a beruches. The east wind is the strongest of winds. Right. That's what it's saying. Not that it's any, it's a strong wind. And this same wind is what God exacts punishment for the wicked. As it says in the verse in Jeremiah, that was like a east wind, that I will scatter them. And there's those that are wicked. And the east wind will come, and the wind of Hashem. Ruach HaKodim Varech Balev Yamim. The east wind shattered you in the heart of the seas. And he spoke in his hard spirit on the day of the east wind. Okay, just showing different instances. And the water split. It says water split, like it doesn't say the sea split, right? It says the water split. What water? So Rashi says all the waters in the world split at that time. So in the Medrash it says that the land was dry, right? If the land was dry, what does that mean? The sea split. So why does it have to say the sea split? Because not the sea split. It doesn't say the sea split. It says the water split, right? But if the land is already dry, so obviously the sea split. Why is it? It's so superfluous saying this statement that the water split. So Rashi therefore says it's waters of the entire world split. So you're holding, yeah. So Beaver Lake over here split then, or Lachine Canal, St. Lawrence Seaway split. What that means, I don't know, but that's what it is. Well, what it means, at least in the spirit of it, it means that there wasn't just an experience for the Jewish people, right? This was something that affected the entire of humanity, because ultimately, it's interesting to me. It says we're going to see a verse. I don't know if it might be today. Hold on. No, it's going to be in tomorrow's teachings, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's going to say that the waters came back to the original strength. And there explains that it's a play on the words to the original purpose. The original purpose of creation is that the sea should split now. If the sea didn't split now, then there was no point in creation. In other words, to save the Jews, so they can go to Mount Sinai. That's the purpose. And therefore, it's a colossal thing. It's not just, the saving of the Jewish people. And it's more than that, but not for now, because we're doing Chumash Rashi. Okay, and they came, the children of Israel, the Israelites, in the midst of the sea, by Yabasha, in the dryness, Vamayim Lahem, and the water was for them, Chayma, as a wall, Yaminam, from their right side, and Mismoilam, and from their left side. Look at that. This is the first time that you have politics right and left, that they are separated, on different camps. In Hebrew, you say smolanit means in Yiddish we say alinke, means left. They're the ones who are out to lunch on the left. All right. Yid from Mitzrayim, and they chased them, the Egyptians, v'yavoyim, and they came achareihim after them. Kol sus, every single chariot, pare. Sorry, sus is horse. Every sus, right? It doesn't say susim, by the way. Rashi will pick up on it. It doesn't say in plural. Every horse, pare, pare. Richbai and his chariot, of Parashav and his horsemen, El Toichayam, into the midst of the sea. Rashi called Sus Pare. Kisus Echadaya. Did it only have one horse? And it says in the singular. Magi, this tells us She'ein Kulam Chashuvim Hamakam, and this tells us that they are not considered before Hamakam, before Hashem. Who Hamakam? Hamakam Yinachem Ischem, right? This is it's God, right? Here in this term, though, it refers to God, that He is omnipresent because He's in all places, right? They're considered like one horse. In other words, for God, in the destruction of the Egyptians, it was like one horse He had to deal with. And it was in the morning watch. V'yashkiv Hashem El Machane Mitzrayim, and Hashem looked upon the encampment of the Egyptians, Ba'amadesh, and with the pillar of fire, Ba'anan, and with the cloud, the pillar of cloud, doesn't say pillar, but in cloud, Yaham Es Machane Mitzrayim, He threw the camp of the Egyptians into confusion. Let's see Rashi. What's confusion over here? Rashi, in the early morning watch. Shloishes chalakim alayla kruim hashmeiros. The three divisions of the night are called watches. Right? In other words, 12 hours is split into 4-hour watches, right? And the one that's immediately preceding the morning is called the morning watch. So Rashi says, I say it's because the night is divided into watches of the song of the ministering angels. There's a group after group by 3 divisions. That's why they're called a watch. In other words, there's an assignment for a particular group of angels. That group must keep its assignment. Yeah, got it? This Unkelis translates the word as matras, meaning a watch. V'yashkev, and Hashem looked down. V'yabid, and he gazed. Kaloimer pona alekim lahashki chasam. Hashem now turned towards them to destroy them. That's what it means, right? The Targumon is it means it means gazing. Who states Saifim Chakal Savusa. Okay. Bamundesh Va'anan. Bamundesh Va'anan with a pillar of fire and cloud. Amud Anan Yerid Va'isei Kitit. The pillar of cloud would descend and make the seabed like mud. Amadesh Vatichoi. And the pillar of fire would boil it. And the hooves of the horses would come off because it was aflame. Like it was very hot. The earth became hot. right? So therefore, the hooves of the horses would come off. Interesting. Let me just see. Right. I guess because Hashem looked down at the camp. What's with the pillar of fire and the cloud? What was he doing with the pillar of fire? So what does that have to do with anything here? Right? His intent now he's gonna drown them, right? So what's the pillar of the of fire and the cloud have anything to do here? So that's what Rashi is explaining, because they were part of the process, because before the water receded, the earth heated up, and now yeah, heat it off in order to do this first. Okay, Yahav, and confounded, confusion, word of confusion, Lashon Muhuma, confusion, and in Old French, estor dison. Yirvavam, he befuddled them, and nato signoyos shalahem, and he took away the power of reason. So we learn this from the teachings of Elazar, the son of Rabbi Yisrael Galili. Wherever it says a confusion. So wherever it uses this term of confusion, Aramas Kael Hu, it means a thundering of sound, is that of the Kulam, and this is the paradigm for all of them. Similar idea we see in the book of in Shmuel, that Hashem thundered at them with a great sound at the Philistines and confused them. It's just meaning a thundering sound that was confusing. The Yasser is Eifen Meir called Vasei, and it removed the wheels of their chariots, the Gehu, and they were the Chvedus, and they were um, led them very heavily. The Yemen Mitzrayim, and the Egyptians said, "Anusa, let us flee." Israel, because of the Israelites. Ki Hashem nilcham lahem b'Mitzrayim, because God is fighting for them against Egypt. That's what God said, they're going to finally recognize. And it's interesting, he said about the Egyptians that they will. And you see, that's what the verse says, right? The Egyptians recognize. Rashi, final Rashi of the day. Yasser is Eifen Merkal Vasei. He removed the wheels of their chariots. How? Because of the force of the fire, the wheels were burned. And the chariots were dragging along. Then they sat on there and they were shaken about. It's parking, and their limbs became dislocated. Wow. And they were led with a heaviness, in a manner that's heavy and harsh for them. The midish and madadu is a punishment for the measured out to them for what they did what Pharaoh and his servants did against the Jews. Yahweh Libahu Abada made his heart heavy. Yahweh is Abada, and his heart was heavy. Okay, just being proof. How come his bechvegas? Okay, next, final Rashi over here. Nilcham lehem b'Mitzrayim, and God was waging, so the Egyptians recognize that God is waging war against Egypt. B'Mitzrayim, against the Egyptians who are at the Sea of Reeds. Not against Egypt, but the Egyptians. Davar acher, that's the first explanation. An alternative explanation is Mitzrayim doesn't mean against Egyptians, but rather Be'eretz Mitzrayim, but in the land of Egypt. So just as these were stricken at the sea, likewise those who remained in Egypt were also stricken. Now, each one has a difficulty in their understanding. Okay, let's see. We had a question earlier, and the seemingly contradiction in Rashi. We have verse 15, right? He says something positive about the Jewish people. And then the following verse, he says, the following verse, but yeah, so 15 and 19 seem to be a contradiction. Wow. I don't say anything here. All right. I'll see you shortly.